Chapter 24, The Lower Levels. "Ah, the free dungeon," Ven said. "Everyone's favorite." The cave became livelier as Vivi followed Ven down. The monotone gray was finally broken. Dark blue crystals lit caverns and tunnels in a moody glow. Ceiling lamps were replaced with natural light. Rivers were more common, and nature seemed more respected. Fungi was left in its place to grow instead of being immediately stomped on. The general gist of gathering ether was still the same. Demons were stationed across the sprawling caverns, waiting for monsters to respawn. Respawns were still scarce, but the lower monsters were stronger, carrying more ether. Ghost blades and stronger, more agile skeletons replaced the average respawns. Colorful weapons became common. Demons wielded stronger metals, mostly low-tier mithrils. Nothing too expensive. Vivi's steel sword wasn't totally outclassed yet, but she certainly wouldn't want to start a fight with anyone. Lucius would struggle to block attacks from heavier weapons. "Doesn't look very free," Vivi said. "Everywhere is occupied." Ven let out a laugh. "The free dungeon is controlled by gangs. What a surprise. The stewards forbid gangs from blocking traffic. Newcomers are allowed to walk in and scout the area. But every single respawning monster of the lower levels is still controlled by a gang, even in the free dungeon." "I see," Vivi said. "Isn't that fantastic?" Moss rumbled near Vivi. Ether oozed out from the ground before a monster emerged from beneath the moss. A goblin-like monster, carrying an ethereal blowdart. Vivi was nearest to the spawning monster. Before she could even think of killing it, another demon dashed for the goblin thing, slashing it in half with one clean swipe. He took its ether. Ven walked past, and Vivi followed. The strongest monster Vivi saw was an ethereal bear. It was as tall as a demon when standing on 4 feet, and wide enough to swipe at 3 demons at the same time. Wisps of ether oozed out of its white fur. "That one has close to 1,000 ether," Lucius said. "There's no chance I could block its attacks. My claws wouldn't damage it yet." A group of 5 demons formed a concave around the bear, slowly pushing it to the corner. Each demon had a colored weapon. One had a large Ethersmith shield that could withstand the bear's attacks. 2 demons had spears, poking the bear down. One of the spears landed, and the bear roared a pained snarl. Vivi flinched from the volume. Ven barely even looked at the bear, treating it as any other monster. The kill wasn't his, and the bear wasn't a threat. Rather, Ven was studying how Vivi reacted to it. "How do the respawns work anyway?" Vivi asked. "I thought only ether storms could reanimate monsters. The respawns don't seem to make sense." Ven looked amused. "Dungeons are areas where ether dwells and gathers. There's enough ether in this dungeon to summon a storm. But the area is calm. Instead of ether gushing out all at once out through a storm or a surge, the ether in dungeons is controlled." "Controlled?" Vivi asked. "How?" "By Tivlin, the trickster god, of course," Ven said. "Dungeons were all created during the Age of Typhoons. Tivlin wanted to see how many legendary fighters he could trap inside his dungeons, so he filled old caves and mausoleums with ether. His dungeons have vastly dropped in difficulty since, but monsters still respawn." "I've heard the same theory," Lucius said. "It's just a belief. Ask him better questions while you still can." "Well, I guess the explanation doesn't matter," Vivi thought. "I heard the monsters here are recycled in the free dungeon," Vivi said. "What does that mean?" "Monsters are killed immediately before they have a chance to rise," Ven said. "That's how the free dungeon works. But in terms of gathering ether, killing monsters immediately is inefficient. Ether flows faster in the dungeon if caverns are left alone for a few days. The free dungeon is too much of a free-for-all. Monsters are killed immediately, since gangs aren't allowed to block others from entering." "Doesn't that mean the path to the boss is even more active?" Vivi thought, "if the room has been left alone." "There were a lot of monsters behind the blocked doors," Lucius said. "I sensed it. The hidden path is filled with monsters." Ven continued talking, unaware of Lucius's presence. Some gangs like to leave their hunting grounds alone for a few days to let monsters truly respawn. They call the strategy leaving a room to brew. This way, the monsters that do spawn hold a lot more ether. Fully brewed rooms are a lot harder to clear, but a few breakers will do just fine. Breakers? Vivi asked. A Nimrod who has broken the limit, Ven said. Someone who carries more than 300 ether. Vivi raised her eyebrows. I thought that was punished with a whipping. Only if you get caught, Ven said. Most successful Nimrods have crossed the threshold at least once. Breakers are those who do it intentionally for their own benefit. So long as you're not examined, and so long as you don't grow strong enough to become a threat to the stewards, you're fine. Are you a breaker? Vivi asked. No, Ven said, though he smirked when he said it. Crossing the limit is too dangerous. I would never do it. He carries at least 700 ether, Lucius said. Yeah, Vivi thought. That was sarcasm. I'm not above the limit either, Vivi said. And she really was, not yet. One day you might need to be, Ven said. I can tell you're new. You're lucky you're asking questions from me, not from one of B-Wern's goons. Thanks for the help, Vivi said. Is he pretending to be trustworthy? Vivi thought. Impossible to tell, Lucius said. Keep following him. I sense ether growing more concentrated. Vivi continued down. She couldn't suddenly turn back now. Ven appeared like an honest man, but appearances often lied. Vivi had to approach cautiously. Ong's hunting grounds are a few caverns north, Ven said. Not his personal ones. I just like to use his name to give importance to my operations. Ong is away right now and has been for months. My job in the free dungeons is to keep peace and to make sure Nimrods don't kill each other for useless conflicts. Sorry if this is a prying question, but what do you gain from keeping peace? Vivi asked. Most demons only work if there's ether available. Keeping the union up offers us a lot of ether, Ven said. Members pay us large sums for protection. With each member, we gain influence. A large portion of the hunting grounds in and outside the free dungeon are worked by our members. Are you hoping to convert me into a member then? Vivi asked. I wouldn't be opposed to it so long as you prove yourself trustworthy, Ven said. Zand is losing more Nimrods than staff takes in. A few thousand Nimrods showed up for the last collection day. Half of those are competent members that can offer value to communities. New members aren't infinite. Lives are valuable, especially lives that aren't in ruins yet. It's more than worth the time to scout new members into the Union. You didn't invite Lars's group, Vivi said. The other newcomers. They can join through payment if they so wish, Ven said. But I will not specifically invite them for a tour. A group of demons that require help to defeat a ghost blade is not worth my time. A lone girl, however, who can perform the same feat. Vivi had the urge to bite her lip. If she were to become a part of his group, she'd need to reveal more secrets than she probably should. She would need to figure out some lies to explain Lucius's claws. Conversely, joining a trustworthy faction had one main benefit: protection. Vivi had already made enemies. She would be harder to target if she joined a gang. Here we are, Ven said as they entered the next cavern. Hey, Liddy. The crystal-lit cavern was twice the size of Axback's warehouse. Tents and backpacks had been spread out by the edge of the room. The rest of the cavern was empty. Nobody sat across the room, competing for respawns. In the lower levels, territories were agreed upon with more sophisticated methods. This area clearly belonged to Ven and his friends. Liddy, the demon Ven waved to, was a horned woman wearing a brown robe. She had pretty bright blue eyes. The fingers that poked out beneath her long sleeves were ashen gray. She had long black hair and a reserved posture. Her frown directed at Vivi wasn't as welcoming. A human. A spectacle, isn't she? Ven said. I found her lost and confused fighting a ghost blade above, and she defeated the thing. Liddy studied Vivi. She didn't look impressed. Well, I'd like to see her in action. Let her have the next kill. Thanks for the offer, but you can keep it, Vivi said. Liddy gave Ven a look. Ven let out an awkward laugh and said, Liddy is a bit of a grumpy one. We're not struggling with ether. We can gladly offer you a monster or two. No, it's not that, Vivi said. I can't fight right now. I'm here just to watch today. And why's that? Ven asked. I don't trust you enough, was Vivi's honest answer. The monsters of the lower level were too difficult to defeat with just a sword. She'd need to reveal Lucius's presence. Even then, Vivi had to risk her life for every fight. We'll have to turn them down, Lucius said. Our goal is to find a solo hunting ground. Working with a gang will limit us too much. Yes, Vivi thought. Ven and Liddy appeared friendly. They were even friendlier than Axeback. Somehow, this made Vivi suspicious. Movement stirred within the dried foliage ahead. Rocky vines rose from the ground, wisps of ether forming an aura. The vines tangled together, forming a bulky bush-like monster. The monster's arms were club-like and fingerless, thorns pointing out. Its head was one with its neck, horns poking out where ears usually would. A stone leaf, Ven said. That should be simple enough. All yours, Vivi. The monster took a heavy step toward the group. At the pace it was moving, it would take at least half a minute to arrive. The vines that made up its body were solid. Lucius's claws wouldn't cut through the monster. Neither would Vivi's sword. Steel couldn't cut through stone. Vivi would need a pickaxe, and even then she'd need the monster to sit still while she slowly hacked its body to death. I can't pierce its defenses, Vivi said. I told you I'm here just to watch. Ven sighed. You're making it mighty difficult to assess your abilities. Ven gave Liddy a look, a signal. Suddenly, Ven pressed something against Vivi's hands. It was an ether print scanner. The runes lit up in red, assessing Vivi's core. Her heart dropped. Ven was examining her reserves. Ven's and Liddy watched the results. Their expressions froze in confusion for a second before Ven lifted his head. Negatives, Ven gushed. Your reserves are in the negatives. I'd like to go now, Vivi said. Thanks for the tour. Ven watched after her with a shocked expression. Vivi didn't say anything to elaborate. She turned around, fully prepared for something to attack her. No attacks came. Vivi exited the room without an issue. Nobody appeared out of the shadows, and Ven didn't chase her. Vivi walked away swiftly but didn't break into a run. The demons controlling caverns gave her weird looks. Vivi didn't meet anyone's eyes, swiftly passing. All it took was one crazy person to ruin her life. Have you sensed anything valuable? Vivi asked. She hoped the trip hadn't been for nothing. Any secret paths? Vivi, Lucius said. We're being followed again, a large group. Vivi blinked. She felt it now. That cold gaze on her back of someone trailing her. Is it Ven? She asked. I don't think so, Lucius said. It's a different group. Their presence grew hostile when you exited Ven's lair. Vivi upped her pace, almost running now. Encampments and hunting grounds passed by. She didn't pay attention to what was happening around her. She kept her eyes on her exit. Left, she thought, recalling her memory. No, this way. We came from the right. Stepping into the next area, Vivi found the cavern entirely empty. A river flowed to her left, crystals lighting the room from the right. Something was wrong. This room hadn't been empty earlier. Vivi recalled a demon sitting atop the rocks by the river, waiting for monsters to spawn. Still, Vivi continued forward. Two black-eyed demons in dark blue cloaks appeared by the exit, weapons drawn. Chapter complete. If you enjoyed it, like, comment, and subscribe for more light novel adventures. Tune in for the next chapter.